Hi, Jen.
Hello. I'm just getting set up.
Okay.
Copy link.
Hi, Jen. Sorry.
Good morning, Piper. Hello, Elise and Jen.
Morning.
Hi, Sarah.
Nope.
Morning.
Morning, Cliff.
Morning.
Hey, Piper. Hey, Jen. Hey, Margaret. Chris.
Hey, everyone.
Sevens. Hi.
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 Everybody,
Elise.
All right.
pour a cup of coffee in the background.
Okay. 9 o'clock. I see our whole committee is here along. Where'd Elise go? Oh, there you are. And Cliff. Okay. Along with, I saw Margaret. I'm not sure where she is now.
Because she's on the committee, or she's not on the committee, I moved her over to an attendee.
Got
And then
it.
if you guys want to allow a public comment or anything, we can move her back over. Just let me know.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Well, all right. So Piper and I took some of the assumptions that we talked about last time and built them in here to a draft. Some of them are going to need a little explanation. And you can see in what Piper sent, I think yesterday, right? Or was it the day before?
Last night.
Last night, yeah.
Mhm.
That there are some highlighted figures. Would you like to start, Piper, by us scrolling through those figures? How's that
Can I
sound?
interrupt for a minute? I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
because this is a public meeting. I think, do we need to do the determination letter and all of that?
Okay. Well then, maybe so. Let
Yeah,
me.
sorry about that.
No, that's
I
Okay.
okay.
did have it on the agenda, right?
Okay, sorry, I didn't even look at that. I beg your pardon. Or didn't even think about that. Let me go to, how about if I read the one from
That's
last
the same
week?
one, so that would be
Yeah.
appropriate.
Right, okay, so let me, oh, I see, it's, there it is, it's the same one right on the webpage, okay. March 2nd, 2021, determination regarding conducting town of Alta public meetings without an anchor location. The mayor of the town of Alta hereby determines that conducting a meeting without an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location pursuant to Utah Code Section 52.42074 and Town of Alta Resolution 2020 R12. The facts upon which this determination is based include the percent number of positive COVID-19 cases in Utah has been higher since May of last year. The 7-day average on March 1st this year is 603, with about half the state's cases in Salt Lake County. As of March 1st, 2021, there have been 1,949 deaths reported in Utah due to COVID-19. This meeting will therefore not have a physical anchor location. All attendees will connect remotely. You can register for the webinar at www.townofelta.com. The meeting can be watched live or recorded on YouTube. Additionally, comments can be emailed to the town clerk, blever@townofelta.com. Determination expires in 30 days on April 1st, which is actually not 30 days from now, but 30 days from when I wrote it. Signed by me and attested by Piper. Okay. Good.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So as I was suggesting, maybe the thing to do is, Piper, do you want to take the lead, and I can
Yes.
share the document if that's helpful, or you can, whichever way you'd prefer.
Why don't you share it and I'll follow along on my own screen here.
Okay, so here it is, and the first thing we decided to do was to I'll just start off by saying this: 300,000 for sales tax is lower. I mean, property tax is lower because, Cliff, we decided at the back end, we saw that we could balance the budget and decrease property taxes by the $50,000 that were, or the well, nearly 100,000 from last year.
It-
Uh,
I guess I should put something in here. And John and I were just talking about this. I was looking at the county website and they have us collecting like 400,000. We haven't been getting that. And I'm not, we've pretty much got 90% of our property tax now. We shouldn't be getting that much more, and we have quite a bit less. So I was attributing that to maybe the Snow Pines devaluation, but I'm not sure if it's $40,000 worth. So I'm not sure if we're taking away 96,000 from our current
right.
property tax or 56,000.
Right. I realized that after I looked at this again this morning. And so let's put it this way. We're trying to give back some of the property tax consistent with Cliff's suggestion. Makes me a little nervous, but I do certainly understand the principle behind doing that, as Cliff has articulated so effectively. So anyway, this number is amendable as we need.
Yeah, so clearly it seems like we need to get things squared away with Salt Lake County and figure out what's going on, whether there may be some delinquencies, although as you described it, it doesn't sound like that would account for it. But then the concept here, I saw this and going through the draft, looks like the aim, correct me if I'm wrong, this year would be to give back, as it were, 2/3 of the savings from the UFA contract.
Yeah, well, it would be somewhere between, I don't know. I mean,
Between
I don't know if it's
50%, 75,
right,
or
right,
50,
right.
60.
So 2/3 is a good, is right in the middle of that range.
Yeah.
Okay. Piper, sales and use tax, that 1.2 million is,
That is a 95% of 2000 fiscal year 2020 number,
Right.
rounding up a little bit.
yeah. And we know that's conservative, but since we, as of this date, don't have a lot of our sales tax results from this current year, we thought we don't know how much, if any, carryover we will have.
And just something to think about, the mayor pointed out to me that we would then be changing the balance between our sales tax and property tax would go from 1/3 property tax to 1/4. So
Right.
that's
So-
something to think about, that balance. Yeah.
Right. I mean, if there were a way, I don't see that there's a way to do this, but if we could give that money back to the residents in some other form, because the property tax is less volatile than other forms of revenue, it would be nice. But I don't see a way to do that.
Well, the reason for that change in balance would be that the property taxpayers are now going to be carrying a heavier load because of the UFSA
Yes.
membership. So we've got to do apples to apples. And as far as the sales tax estimate, I'm not objecting to this. I don't mind being conservative. None of us want to be sort of mindlessly conservative. In as we're coming out of the crisis in every way. In the past, there's been this pattern of being conservative on the sales tax estimates, which has been fine, as a way of building up that fund balance, for the rainy day. Just as long as we're keeping our eye on that ball and being, conscious about what we're doing.
Right. I mean, if we have as much as if we end up with the 18-19 results, we'll have an extra 145,000 and we'll be able to, what we can't do is amend property tax mid-year, but we would certainly be able to go into the next year confident about amending property tax. All right. John has pointed, you want to say something about the next item, John, since this is your bailiwick? Plan check
Which
fees?
one?
The plan check fees have evaporated. What happened?
You know, I haven't heard a single word about anybody doing anything this year. We've been pretty busy. Although just yesterday, somebody called and there might be a house, you know, and the houses are kind of a big ticket item, $10,000, $15,000 total permit. But if we don't have any plan check fees, if we don't have any projects, we don't have any plan check fees. They all kind of even out. If a few things come in, we'll have to amend, but we'll get more money in and it'll go to the plan check fees. But I haven't heard of anybody doing anything big this year.
Well, there again, I don't mind being conservative as long as we are conscious of what we're doing. But, and just in talking to property owners and contractors, building is going crazy. I mean, builders can't get materials. And, so the demand is there. That's the larger climate that we're in right now.
Last year, we had a
Right.
number of units change hands in the blackjack and get remodeled. I haven't heard about one of those this year, for example. But John, a remodel gets a plan check fee, generates plan. Anytime there's a building,
Yes.
what's it called? The building permit. Okay.
Yeah, and actually, I
Any kind of a
didn't
building, any kind
highlight
of
that.
building.
I didn't highlight that line, but in 1032, that went from 37,000 to 10,000, 1032 to 10, right
In
there.
here, yeah, right. So as the season gets a little closer to May, we'll probably have a better idea what those are.
Yes.
Because if people haven't
And
applied by
normally,
May,
I mean, if they're not talking to us now, it's a nightmare because, Sugar Plum and Powder Ridge used to do that. They'd start talking in June and July and build in September. And I'm hoping that people don't do that anymore. We know normally by now if somebody's planning something. But like I said, one big house just yesterday.
so,
but
yeah. So the next iteration
I
is,
don't know yet. Nothing really on the books.
Piper, can you explain these contributions and transfers in 1039?
Yes, so the transfers from other funds, that's number 400 there. That would be a number of capital, that's all coming from the capital project fund, and there's a number of projects. 50,000 are two of the marshal's office radio and telephone projects, 30 and 20 respectively, I think. 25,000 for a Thomas More building refurbish, and 25 for Flagstaff repaving, and 5,000 for a project for the roof safety for the community center, something to solve our problems up there. But so that's where the 105 comes from. It's in the capital projects fund. It'll come in here and you'll see it going out further in the budget. The 20,000 from the impact fund, that is there for now, but I'm not sure what the town plans to do once we hear from NEAD, what the next step is. 20,000 is there to keep that project going forward. If we decide to get a consultant to tell us how to raise funds or more design aspects of the project, I don't know. We don't have to use any of it, but well, there is a time limit on when we can use impact fee funds, right, John? So
yeah,
it's probably good if we don't want to let that project die.
6 years,
Then
but I think we're good.
To
yes.
put some money into keeping it alive and moving it forward.
Right. So these are earmarked restricted funds for certain kinds of projects, and they do have an expiration date. So that's why we put those in there. Okay.
And the last transfer there is from the water fund. It's to pay back the longstanding debt.
Right.
Partially, yes.
We've been doing that for a little while now.
Couple of years, yep.
All right. Here's a $20,000 consultant services. I presume that's the business studies, the various business
Yes.
studies.
Both the business study and the revenue analysis. Yeah.
We don't have real prices for those yet, but going off of the Zion's Bank letter that I received for a $6,000 business license study, I said to Piper, I think the revenue expense study will be a bigger deal. Let's put in 7,500 plus 12,500 for 20. And when we get the RF, we'll do some homework to find out what seems like real numbers or more.
Right.
It seems pretty close, because when Dr. Haskell turned in his thing, he said 11 grand, and
Right.
so.
Yeah.
you're
So we
going
were
the right direction.
benchmarking on those two submissions.
Right. Then you can see the Thomas More building has its own line there. It's not a shot in the dark completely. It was, John got an estimate from our building inspector on costs for that, so.
And the goal there is to make it as, I mean, we use it for storage, but it's not really a safe place for somebody to go into and out of currently, even not to spend a lot of time in the building, right?
Right, but the idea is more to preserve the historical
Right.
aspect of it. Is that right, John?
Yes, thank you. It's kind of it's a pet project.
Well,
But you know,
you're-
it is the last CCC thing up here.
You're
And
getting some support in the town, so
Right.
it's building support.
thank you.
We
Um,
actually, I'll just mention, we did talk to the state Division of Historic Preservation or Historic Preservation Office, and they were all aware of that structure and really excited to hear that we were contemplating some work to maintain it, and offered to provide free consultation on just what to do to maintain the appearance of it.
How many years have you worked for the town, John?
Pardon me?
How many years have you worked for the town?
38
Well, okay, so I'd
last
say that,
October.
Mayor, I don't know where you're going with that, but John did not write the permit for the construction of the Tom Moore building.
no, I didn't think he'd been working here since the CCC days. I was just thinking that if that's one of his pet projects, given how long his tenure is, it's a pretty low annual fee to give John a pet project. That's where I was headed.
Well, I can back this up, because the previous district ranger called me up and said, all right, do you want that ugly building? And it's like, excuse me, Kathy Kalo. He goes, if you don't want it, we're going to not include that portion of land in your transfer, and we're going to tear it down because we don't want to maintain it. And I said, we'll take it.
Okay.
So
it's the anchor of the east end of our ground.
bingo, like this building behind me is a very old jail building in Harvard, Nebraska, that they fought like crazy over, and actually W.C. Fields ended up buying it and then donating it back. And it's like, our building is cooler than that. So sorry, I don't want to waste too much time on this building, but thank you very much. We'll see what happens.
Right. And these capital project expenditures can be delayed actually in some cases because of the COVID uncertainties. So depending on how things shake out, we can always, there are some things that are too expensive to defer because that's counterproductive, but some things can be deferred. Okay.
On the Tom Moore toilets, I was just gonna say, and I don't know if this is a budget thing or not, but I was wondering if we could at some point put some sort of plaque or something on there so people know what it is. And it doesn't look like this kind of defunct building in town. Maybe, I don't know, it's an idea.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, and that was something that the state folks offered to consult us on as well, how to provide interpretive resources that could
That's cool.
accompany it. So it'd be really cool. Yeah.
Okay.
The reason-
Oh, go
The
ahead.
reason I put this, highlighted this number was, we will be paying in July for the last Tacoma that we bought. And one thing that came up between the mayor and me talking was that maybe we could buy our next Tacoma for cash instead of going through the municipal lease process, which takes time and lawyers' fees and interest rates.
List.
We could afford probably to pay cash for it. And so we would be done with this category if we did that. We would only pay one month, which would be July 21.
To retire that debt then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the issue on this question is, do we want to, our PTIF account where we're storing our money yields almost nothing, and interest payments are not high, but they are 2 or 2.5% higher than our receipt. And so,
Yeah.
that's $1,200, $1,400 over the 2 years. Maybe we have a better use than interest for that. That was where we were headed.
Right. And so in the next highlight thing in the marshal's office, 1054, 740 for the capital outlay, you would see the 50,000 in capital projects that I talked about earlier, the radio and the telephone projects, and then 33,000 for a new truck and 5,000 to outfit that truck. So adds up to 88,000 there.
And so, we can also, when do we need to make this decision about the purchase method, the funding method, Piper?
It usually takes 3 months or so to get all that municipal lease going. So the sooner we know, the better.
So next month.
We've already ordered the car though, so the dealer, it doesn't make a difference to the dealer what we do, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me for a moment. Piper, I wonder if you could just quickly again run us through the components of that 88,000.
Oh, yes, sorry. So in the capital projects, you'll see there's a $30,000 project for a telephone and recorder system for the marshal's office, 20,000 for radio upgrades. I believe it's the phase 2 radio upgrade project. 33,000 approximately for the new truck. That's on a state bid price, and about 5,000 to outfit it.
And that means lights and sirens.
So do you remember, Piper, do you remember those trucks are like $40,000. The state bid is pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember
Yeah,
what
it
they
is.
were list?
No.
Well, I know that
just-
when we
It's
sell
an
the used
unbelievable
ones,
deal.
we get a fairly good return on the used ones. We sell them for around 20, don't we? 18, 20?
Yeah, but at least 20. And
Yeah.
I actually put 25 up in the revenue column to
Yeah, I
get
saw
rid
that.
of one of ours, but I didn't know the mileage or the year at that time, so.
So Mike, Maury, and Sarah, do you want to give us some explanation of the radio upgrade on the one hand and the communications, the telephone and recording system on the other, so that everybody's up to speed on that?
I can try to do that. So the short story on the telephone project is we've come to understand that the YipTel telephone system that the town switched over to some years ago is not compatible with the recording hardware that police departments use. There's an electronic protocol that YipTel uses to manage incoming calls that is just not compatible with the recording systems. So we've tried several patches. They've all been unsuccessful. We've also experienced some pretty alarming interruptions in service with YipTel, which are just unacceptable for, you know, a police dispatch center. So we want to go to a more reliable provider there and find a recording device that'll be interoperable with that provider. The radio upgrades, we know that, you know, in the next 2 years, the state's going to be transitioning over to phase 2 digital encrypted radios. About 50% of the department's radios are not capable of being programmed for that change. So we see the need over the next 2 years to squirrel away some money and make those purchases.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike, do you see some of those purchases happening this year, 20,000 worth, or no?
Yeah, possibly if we can identify a good deal. You know, the various radio vendors, you know, go through cycles of offering specials. In particular, when big agencies are in transition, sometimes you can get onto you know, some really good state pricing. So if we saw a really good price, we'd probably want to move on it.
Okay, good.
Mike, I see that you just sent me an email with another equipment cost update. Is that something we need to, do we have that in the budget now?
We did put down tasers in the budget. The email that I just sent you in Piper's fairly alarming. It's well above what we thought the costs would be to replace our CEW, or conducted energy weapons. The short version of that story is of the tasers that the department owns, one is broken. One is at its end of life, and 3 have reached end of life, meaning that they're not warranted. We can't get parts or service for them. And the manufacturer no longer stands behind the reliability of the device. So when we first bought tasers well over a decade ago, you know, we bought state-of-the-art equipment. That's evolved in ways that I am just beginning to understand. So the devices that are out now, the industry standard, have corrected some deficiencies in all the previous devices, particularly with the aim and reliability of the darts. And as you know, the country's going through a pretty big shift in its expectation on law enforcement, de-escalation training, etc. So Axion/Taser Corporation has adapted to all of these things, and they now sell their equipment in a package inclusive of training, you know, to conform with industry standards. So the bid that we received would be for the devices, warranty on the devices, all the required replacement and training cartridges for a 5-year period, a certificate which would allow us to send one of our people to Taser instructor school, and the training aids necessary to keep us all certified over a 5-year period. They know that the product has become expensive, so what they are doing, and this is not a lease, this is a 5-year payment program to own program that they're doing standard with law enforcement agencies. So they've broke down the total cost of around $17,000 for 5 devices into a 5-year billing cycle. So our cost would be about $3,700 a year.
What's the expected life of these once we, after the 5 years, do we get another 5 years out of them roughly?
It seems that we go through this about every 5 years.
Okay.
Now, the situation we'd find ourselves in 5 years from now would be that we would have some trade-in value that we don't today.
I see. I would think that if you are at the end of life on a device like that, not only are you risking the lack of reliability, is not only risking our officers' safety and the safety of the people who are being apprehended, but it probably opens us up to some liability, I would expect.
It really does. You know, choosing not to equip our people with less than lethal tools is a huge liability. Yeah, it's a difficult thing for me because, you know, since we've owned the devices, we have not had a single taser deployment. You know, so it's a lot of money to pay for that insurance.
Didn't the legislature this year, I wasn't paying attention to this bill, but there was a bill that was requiring less than lethal tools.
Tools and training, yep.
Okay.
And, you know, our training year beginning in July is going to be difficult. There's a lot of mandates.
Is that $3,500 in the expense side for the police, Piper? Because we just got that estimate today. So probably
Right.
not.
It wasn't, because it under 1054 480 right there, the second line, I had put in 3,000 extra because at the time I thought that's what 3 tasers might be, or 4. So
Yeah.
it's in there. I could increase that a little bit.
Yeah, so would need to increase that by 700, but also understand that would be incurring that same cost, you know, in the 4 years following.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Excuse me for a moment.
Sure.
That all sounds reasonable. No objection. Every time I ask the marshal a question, I am amazed all over again at the depth of your knowledge. And this one I'd rather take offline. But you know, non-lethal ways to stop a subject who needs to get stopped. You know, ultimately for the future, that just seems so much more sensible than ripping somebody's insides out with hot lead. And you know, there's maybe bean bags and stuff like that. So I'd take that one offline, but I'd love to catch up with the marshal on that sometime.
Yeah, I'd like that also.
Good. Okay. The next item.
I'm sorry, Mayor, to interrupt.
I'm sorry if you weren't done. I beg your pardon.
Well, I just want to make sure that Sarah had a chance to
Yeah.
talk about the phone
Yes, of course.
if I didn't cover it.
No, I think that works.
So thanks, Sarah, and thanks, Mike. So the next item, we just really didn't know what to do, what change to put in here, so we left it the same. Is that a fair statement, Piper?
Yes.
And so I think we've let Chris, who's I don't remember if you're still on the board, Chris, but he's our liaison to ACVB. We've let Chris know that we're looking for a number that they want us to have in here for us to make a decision about, but we're looking for a request, basically.
Yes, and I am still very much on the board.
Okay, I thought so.
Hopefully less so going forward, but yes, and we have a meeting this afternoon to try to start piecing together a budget for next year, and we'll be able to say a little bit more very soon about you know, our needs for the current fiscal year, and then make a projection for next year pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, so we'll have better information to plug in here on the next iteration.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So there's, okay, Piper's back, or her video's back on. So here's the 25,000 for the Flagstaff lot paving. That's the north side of the road beyond the UDOT responsibility on our private ground.
Yes, it's a real estimate, and Chris might have something to add. He's looking for a partner in that, maybe.
Yeah, so, a couple summers ago, I got 3 estimates for that work, and they ranged from like $18,000 to $80,000, something like that. I think depending on the scale of the operation and whether the contractors had any work in the canyon or nearby that they could, use to save on mobilization costs. And I think there's a chance we could find any number of contractors who could do the work for around the lower number. We own a pretty good chunk of that parking area, but there's quite a bit of it we don't, such as the parking area between the Forest Service garage and the western extent of our piece of property. And then also east of our property, all the way to the community center, really, a bunch of that asphalt needs maintenance and replacement. So I have talked to UDOT about partnering on, a project in that area this summer. And I think we're going to get together next week out on the road and talk about it.
It'd be cool. One thing that would be nice would be is if they were willing to come up to repair those areas that we don't own and just charge us the marginal cost of doing our component of it. That would be a really good win for us.
Yeah. Well, and I think with their arrangements and their resources, we could potentially get quite a bit more out of that amount of money than just our land, which really, if you go out there and survey that asphalt on that north side parking, like if we only did our property, it would leave a bunch of asphalt that needs replacement. So again, I think that partnership could stretch our funds quite a bit further.
I presume that those handful of yards of Forest Service ground in there, we would have to work something out with them. We can't just pave Forest Service ground.
Well, nearly all of it's in the UDOT easement now.
Well, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that it was just that. Did that part? I don't have the easement map pulled up, but right to the east of the photo house, there was a little bit of Forest Service ground in there, and I'm not sure where that ended up.
I think there is a little bit of it. It's like, yes, there's a little bit, there's a tiny chunk there that, is maybe like the back portion of 3 or 4 parking stalls or something like that. That's still the forest. We'll have to talk to them. I guess we would want to talk to them before going forward.
All right. Moving down to the next thing.
Down in the impact fee department, that's again, that 20,000 to move the project forward. So it's not necessarily a placeholder, but it's not knowing what that next phase is. It's there.
And the current balance in the impact fund is something like 30,000, I think is what you told me, Piper.
Yeah, 33 or so. Yeah.
Okay.
And we get no impact fee money on remodels and upgrades, only new projects.
That's good to know. So until we hear about some new houses or something, we're not getting much replenishment of that at the moment. Okay, this 7,000 is for the roof project you were talking about?
It includes 5,000 for the roof safety project at the community center.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. This is a transfer to the capital projects fund.
Right. So at the end of the year, we expect that we'll have more capital projects, and we always want to keep putting money away there. So the reason that's an odd number is to balance the budget, but
Yeah. Good. Yeah. So this and the property tax revenues were numbers that we plugged in that made this work out, essentially.
Yeah.
Um,
And just, I'm sorry, if we go back to that line, for this budget, we have, or this fiscal year, we have 10,000 going in there. At the end of the fiscal year, it really depends what happens in the next 3 months with sales tax,
Right.
but we may put a whole bunch more in there to get it, to keep our balance where it has to be, the restricted balance. But for now, it's 10,000 is the budget.
okay. All right. You and I didn't really talk about the subsequent accounts. Have you put numbers in here that you want to talk about?
Yes, I was adjusting this capital project fund, which really just reflects the numbers that we talked about in the general fund budget. And somehow I messed up by $500 there, which I will straighten out.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
then further down on the water fund, I didn't highlight any of these yet. Jen and I are talking to the Rural Water Association,
Right.
Utah. Anyway, about a water rate study that they offered to us for free. So we're going through that process to see where we are. But I put in numbers reflecting, let's see, on 5130 on page, sorry, page
Page 11 is where
in the water fund,
yeah.
page 11, I think it is, 12,
Yes, that's where it
11.
starts. 11 is where it starts.
Yeah, so 5139, this was money that we might have to use out of our savings, that 13.9. And we would expect to get 15.9 from the BOR. This is for the remaining of the Water Smart grants and work that has to be done.
Okay.
Which, I don't know, I think that's kind of in flux. Is that right, John? Depending on what happens
Yes.
up at Patsy Marley.
Yeah, that's half of it. The only
Yeah.
thing left is like $26,000 worth of work to convert the Bay City mine entry and the Grizzly Gulch vault from electric and propane to natural gas, and $4,200 worth of engineering.
Is the-
Yes, and those amounts are reflected near the bottom of this in the capital outlay,
it's here.
27.6 there.
What happened to the expected expenditure for the water line? Where is that now?
We took that out in last year's budget. And I haven't been told to put it back in yet.
Right. So that's the difference between the 80 and the 27.
No, the 80 was,
Oh, because
we did $65,000
That's
worth of work on the improvements in the mine.
oh, right. I told you for the 21 budget to take that out because of
Yes.
expected lower revenues.
Right.
After the estate didn't work it out with us before July.
Right. And after talking to Keith, which I can't remember if you had made a call after I spoke to him, but I talked to him about a bunch of projects and he told me what it would cost to build a new reservoir and we wouldn't even need that 80, that we wouldn't need that pipe, that we'll never get it for 80,000, right? I mean, the group has said they want 100 and something now for that. For us to
Excuse me.
have part
Well,
of that pipe.
right. Well, we haven't agreed to pay more than about 45.
Right.
So that is a disagreement that has yet to be resolved.
Yes.
Okay.
Harris, do we,
And related to the reservoir,
Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Elise was just starting to say something.
oh, I was just
I'm
asking,
sorry.
where are we at? Where are we at with paying back the money to the water fund from our general fund? Is it reflected in the water fund budget?
The sewer fund paid off its debt.
Yeah,
And
we're
the
still-
water fund has not, but it doesn't show up here this is essentially the income statement.
Okay.
It would show up on the balance sheet somewhere.
Okay, I was just curious where we were at on paying it off and how many more years we had to go.
Oh, the rate at which we were paying it off, it was like a 20-year project. So we haven't
Okay.
made much progress on that. I think that a water rate study there ought to be a discussion about that debt as part of the water rate study, it seems to me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, Cliff is saying yes. So Piper, if you can make sure that when you talk to the you and Jen, when you talk to the Rural Water Association about our rate, make sure that they understand that we've got this, that there's this dimension to our water situation.
I will do that. And so we have budgeted, I believe you're a little bit farther down the next page, to pay back 20,000 a year. If the water department operates with a surplus, we can also add that amount to the payoff. So, I mean, we could, if you look at the last 2 years, I mean, we could double that 20,000 easily and then shorten that period that we have to pay.
Yep. Okay. John, you were about to say something about, I don't know exactly, something about the water system.
Water system reservoir, before, I hate to have anybody go down the path of looking at $100,000 for a reservoir above Grizzly, because we know that the Patsy Marley development cannot satisfy the water flow requirements from the state with their pumping system, so they have to do a reservoir.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that, if they start doing that, they either do it by themselves and live happily ever after, and we get to hook up emergency wise. But Mike Mon has said, you know, if they have to do a reservoir, it has to be on the ski area property because there's nothing else up there. And the ski area is interested in partnering with them, Patsy Marley, and us, so that they could get some additional snowmaking capacity, and then we could have that emergency water. So
right.
It wouldn't be as much as Keith thinks, but it'll be an interesting exercise to work together and come up with some splits if we get that far.
Well, he was talking about 100,000 gallons, right? Or that's what he mentioned to me, 100,000 gallon reservoir,
Yeah.
which would satisfy that 60,000 gallon shortage that we're operating under.
Anything else in here?
Okay.
Oh,
Nothing.
Well, we'll just point out that we've been, oh, no, not here. It's other costs. We've been allocating some of our personnel costs of our staff to the various other departments that they're working for. But that's not what this is.
No, and that's, yeah, I think you're talking about a manual adjustment that we have to do
Yes.
at year end. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'm at the bottom of this document now.
Yeah.
Cliff or Elise, are you, we've outlined some of our choices and some of the places where we have continuing uncertainty, but we have a plan to resolve some of those uncertainties. Are you comments, questions, objections, requests?
Thank you. I don't have any comments or questions right now.
Okay, thanks, Cliff. Elise?
Like we have a plan and maybe we'll get some more, sounds like we're gonna get a little more info here on some building plan, permit possibilities and some other stuff coming forward. So
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, Piper, thanks very much for your hard work on this. You know, I know that every year this is it's a big undertaking and it's one that obviously is of importance. So thank you for your diligence. I know that 2 or 3 years, when did you start as the clerk? It's been a very different experience this year, I think, than your first.
2.5.
Yeah. So this is,
Yeah, I joined in that. Thank you, Piper. And it kind of reminds me of my job, and that it seems like I'm always getting better at what I do, and yet somehow it never gets any easier.
That's
Yeah.
that's well put. That's well put. So it's now let's call it 9:50 by the time I finish the statement. And we have 10 minutes left in this meeting. One of the things we can do, how many other, let's see, there's only Margaret as an attendee, but we could ask for if she has any comment, or, I mean, the more general statement would be, are there public comments or comments from people who aren't in the meeting?
It looks like Margaret is raising her hand, so she would like the opportunity if you would like to grant it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, no. That was where I was headed.
Okay, I just was waiting for the official. I'm gonna
Okay, sorry. What? You can't read my mind?
I didn't know if you were asking Elise and Cliff for permission.
Oh, no, well, sort of, but they didn't object. So Margaret, good to see you this morning.
Good morning. The question I had was related to the water and sewer fund. In addition to the ideas that you were mentioning to make sure that we were covering debt payments, which we've done on sewer, I don't know, and this is another concern that Keith raised, was that we make sure we have funds available for replacement costs, that we need to build into those funds reserves for both the emergency, but also what we know is coming is the replacement of those pipes and equipment, so that it's not going to put us into having to disincorporate because we can't pay for it.
I couldn't agree with you more, Margaret. And I think Piper, that's part of Piper and Jen, that's part of what needs to be discussed. What's the right rate of depreciation and savings against depreciation, and how does that affect our water rates? The water system as an enterprise fund is supposed to be, self-funding, and part of self-funding is a responsible depreciation and replacement schedule. Absolutely.
Right. So just related to that, on line 5140, 495, we do have 18,000 there for media replacement. We wouldn't be doing it this summer, but we would be doing it summer of 22.
I'm
So
sorry, which line are you on?
5144.
495. Here it is.
495. Yep.
Here it is. Yep.
18,000 there.
Okay.
And then we also have infrastructure replacement, 5140, 830. That's saving for future expenses as well.
Right. And that 13,861 is the amount needed to make this balance, I presume.
Yes.
Yeah. So, it may or may not be enough. And that's one of the questions to ask the water rate folks. But clearly you are presuming a specific number for water sales based on our water rates and our, our historical usage.
Well, it's based on the rates are based on our expenses. So so we look at that every year.
Right.
So what it costs to run the system.
Right. So if the infrastructure replacement needs to go up, then we would need to figure out a way to get more revenue, which in the water sales has to do with the price of the water.
Yes.
Sometimes we get more money than we anticipate because the ski area ends up making more snow.
Or people take more showers.
Right.
I have a general question. So how does what Piper was just saying, and this is maybe John, Piper, or the mayor can answer this, but intersect with, there's a 2014 Town of Alta Capital Improvement Analysis Plan from Forsgren for the water system. How have we taken that plan into consideration when doing the budget? and the projects listed in obviously those prices in that plan are, almost 6 years old plus at this point. But I'm curious, from my standpoint, how we build. Is that something that we
Well,
need to be doing, or?
I usually have a meeting with Keith every year, and he brings up those projects. And so we are tackling some of them little by little. I can't remember if the BOR grant projects were in that capital project plan or not. Do you remember that, John? Or Margaret?
I can't remember. I think the pump, replacement of an old pump was the thing that was on Clarence's list.
Mhm.
But there are other things on Clarence's
So
list
that's
that are not part of the reclamation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, most of it.
Yeah, so that ought to be part of that. We ought to have that be part of this water rate conversation with the Rural Water Association, for sure.
Well, and I guess just understanding, have the priorities shifted, or are they still the same? Right.
Right. I don't have my notes with Keith's meeting in front of me, but he does bring those up every time, and we do address those as over time we have addressed some of those, increasing the size of the water line at certain spots, or there's a sewer problem with a sag down near the gold miners lot. Things like that we are addressing.
So is there a way to
I've
take
got
this report and put it into an actual schedule or something so that it's documented, or there's a way to track it outside of knowing, I'm just curious the transition and how those conversations can be documented in a way beyond it can carry forward.
Yeah, I do not have a
Well, it's a good idea, because someday Keith may
spreadsheet,
just,
but it is a good idea.
yeah. I mean, Keith might decide just to race cars and stop being a water guy.
He's doing that in 2 years.
Well, maybe he accelerates that to June. You never know, is the point. So the town of Alta relies on the kindness of our friends to a great degree, and what's in their heads. And I'm looking at Mike Morey, and I'm looking at John Gouldner, thinking about this in particular. There's a lot of knowledge in there that it would be good to, not that anybody is looking for you to leave. It's just that there needs to be succession plans for the continuity for whenever it is that you do end up leaving. So,
Yeah.
Thanks,
It's a good
Margaret.
idea to have a spreadsheet. Yes.
All right. Okay. So it looks like so we need to have, let's think about the timeline here. The May Town Council meeting will be on the 12th. So, and we need to make sure that we're all done, earlier in the month than that, so that the town council has a chance to review.
We need to pass a tentative budget in May.
Right. So I'm just thinking, when do we have to have, when does this committee's work get finished? Would be in late April, I guess. So we've got 6 weeks. I guess I want to ask the committee, do you feel the desire to meet again before the April Town Council meeting, or sometime in mid-April, a month from now?
Staff needs us to, if you need input from us, then I'm happy to do it. But if you guys feel that you have the direction you need, we don't, it's up to you guys.
I think we have the direction we need in general. There are going to be a few specific areas that we're looking for direction, like once ACVB gets back to us with their request, we're going to want you all to weigh in on that for sure.
Maybe this would be, Mayor, I don't feel like we need to, meet again, based on what we know,
Okay.
today, but, maybe, Polly McLean could help us, arrange, a way to, exchange information among the committee, consistent with, open public meetings, in a way to streamline that.
Yeah,
Maybe there's
okay.
some kind of sharing technology that, and that could, use everybody's time effectively.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, we can send out a copy of the budget to you individually and say, here's the change that we're proposing and here's the reason why. Here's the reason the number is what in this document. This is why we plugged in this number. What do you think? So, okay, good. Well, that would be very, that would have, if we can stick to that idea, we will end up having had a very efficient budget process. All right, it's 10 o'clock. I have another meeting to go to. I'm going to leave this one. I think it's time to adjourn the meeting.
Good.
Okay,
So moved, I guess.
I guess so.
Second.
Okay. All right, I think we're all in favor. Thanks very much.